That's a magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number.
What does it all mean?
Hello and welcome to Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy. That's me, Matthew Syed. Another set of meaty topics. How hard is it to break into the first team when you're in a youth team setup? What has body shape got to do with coaching and new challenges that each of us still want to achieve? Remember, you can use the hashtag FredSavSide to suggest future topics. But before we get going, let's talk about what we always talk about, which is what we've been up to over the previous week. Fred, do you want to kick off?
Can do, yeah. I've been at my musical and the Fat Friends of Musical.
Oh, it starts this week.
Oh, my word. I've been in Leeds all week, and I'll be honest with you, it's gone up a notch. It's getting closer and closer. Yeah. So this week was a bit more about the music. And they had this thing called Sits with the band. I had no idea what it was. And it's a German word for sit down or something.
Sits,
yeah.
German.
So you walk into the room.
Wow.
Yeah, you got the band, and then you got 4 microphones at the front. I'll post a picture of what it looks like. Yep. And then you sit on the side with the rest of the cast, waiting for your song to come on, and then sing out loud with the band. Wow. It was like the X Factor 6-chair challenge. Oh. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have got a chair.
Really?
I walked up. And there's something about walking up towards a microphone, which is quite nerve-wracking. And I had to start singing my songs. And I loved it, like. And then last night I was in Leeds again in the theatre, singing on stage with the band. And it's all come a little bit real now.
So you're ready?
As nearly. Tomorrow we've got 2 run-throughs, which are crucial before Tuesday. Oh. But do you know the thing? You walk around Leeds and there's such a buzz about it. Because every bus that goes past, there's adverts on buses, pictures on all the billboards. Yeah. Everyone's talking about it. It's, oh my word.
Do you think the pressure, Fred, will be different when there's an actual live paying audience? I don't want to ratchet up the pressure on you, but do you think there'll be a different feel when you're approaching the microphone or you're starting to sing on that first night?
It'll be brilliant. It'd be brilliant. I must admit, I probably should be at this point a little bit more nervous than what I am. Mm-hmm. But I reckon, just before I go out there on Tuesday, I'll be ticking. But the thing is, it's like anything. It's like sport. It's like stuff. I've practiced so hard.
Yeah.
I've got to know it. So I'm taking confidence in the fact that all the stuff I've done is leading up to performing it. Yeah. And performing it, like playing whether for Lancashire or England for me, that's the treat. That's a treat at the end of all the hard work.
Yeah. And you've been full of a cold as well.
Oh, yeah.
I can hear it.
I've been full of a cold. It's affected my singing voice, but nobody noticed. I've been sucking on all these sugar-free strepsils. And then it was only yesterday, Sam Bailey, who's in the show, amazing woman singer, said, don't have strepsils. It numbs your vocal cords. You won't know how to use them. So you could have told me 2 weeks ago. I've been sucking them for the past 2 weeks.
Do you have a substitute? Because often when you have these live shows, there'll be somebody who, if one of the cast gets ill, they'll come in and deputise. Do you have somebody like that?
I have Joel Montague, who
wow.
He's amazing. Yeah. I feel really bad in some ways because this lad is musical theatre.
And he's your substitute?
Yeah, he's my understudy, they call him, in the music. And it's a bit of a bad thing for him because he's probably better than me. And he's just come off the back of doing School of Rock on the West End. He was playing the main role in that this weekend.
The main role of School of Rock, and he's your sub?
Well, yeah, but his normal... What is it? His normal role is one of the gay dads in School of Rock. But then when Dewey, who plays the lead, isn't in it, he does it. So he's been up for awards and all sorts. And I thought he'd be a bit resentful towards me. But he's helped me so much. He's been such a good lad. And this has been the nice thing about the theatre stuff. You know, I've been in teams a lot. Yeah. It's a proper team.
Really?
Lovely people all looking after each other.
Oh, Tuesday, Matthew, Tuesday.
Can't wait. Roberto?
Yeah, I was a busy week. Champions League, Man United, Benfica. Then I went to Lyon. Beautiful. Is it the culinary place of the world? The culinary?
Say food, Rob.
Food.
Good grub.
Good food.
Good grub.
It's the food, Lyon. The food there was amazing. But then...
What'd you have?
It's the food capital of France.
That's right, Andrew. It is. I had a steak.
And chips.
And chips, yeah.
And chips. You put tomato sauce on.
Pommes frites.
Pommes frites.
I also had trouble with the Mini.
Oh no! What's happened?
So basically...
You've realised it's white.
It's cream. It's cream. So basically, what's happened, my wife, who we all know and love...
Well, not everyone, I know.
I've never met her, Rob.
Yeah, I love her.
None of the listeners know she is.
I think I love it. I don't know her, unbelievably. So I was going to a garage to pick up a car Yeah.
Another one?
No.
Another car rob?
No. To get a car, right? So anyway, I said to my wife, I need to pick you up in the Mini to go to the garage, therefore, me getting a car and you drive the Mini home, yeah?
I get it.
So anyway, I go to the garage, I park the car on the forecourt and I turn it round for her so she's facing out, and she passed her test in a...
Mini?
No, in a geared car.
Right.
But 25 years ago.
A manual.
Yeah, a manual.
Yeah.
A manual. So, she got in it, and I'm not lying, mate, she stalled it 3 times. She was putting her foot on the brake. She's forgotten how to drive a geared car. And she got out of the car, she left it in the middle of the road, ran out, run into the garage, and said, I'm not driving that, she said.
I tell you what...
She said, and she went mad. We had a big row in the garage. Everybody was looking. And she left the car. The full beam was on. The indicators were on. The car was smoking. It was all over the place.
Oh, no, it's smoking. So it's gone, has it?
Wow. No, it's all right. It's all right. So we had a massive row. So the Mini has survived.
What was the other car that you were picking up?
Pardon?
What was the other one you were picking up?
It was a hire car.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, what was it?
It was a hire car. It was a Vauxhall Astra.
Okay. And have you repaired the damage?
It wasn't. The top of your
Have you repaired the damage with your wife after the fallout?
Yeah, it was fine. We had a
good.
Yeah, she apologised. You know, because I don't get it. She passed a car in a manual car.
What have you been doing, Matthew?
Well, I've had a reasonably busy week. The one big day for me was last Thursday, my birthday.
Oh, you get that under your hat, didn't you?
So, really wonderful evening.
Was it a big one, 50?
It was... Cheers, Fred. 47. Although I've got to say...
Really? You're 47?
47. And that's a weird thing. Do you remember last week?
No man's land, that, isn't it? 47.
I know, you're not sort of middle-age, older. Where would you call it? Middle-age, late middle-age, early middle-age?
On the decline.
On the... Deteriorating.
You're 47.
I didn't have you down for 47.
No.
And do you remember last week I was talking, I don't want to lower the tone at all, but do you remember I was talking about the biggest fear that I have is a fear of death. So I've always been a little bit apprehensive about birthdays. It's 1 year later, 1 year closer to the end of the game. I had the most amazing response on Twitter, by email from listeners who had said, we have that fear too. It was great of you to talk about it. So that actually was wonderful to hear.
Well, it's a good job I've kept the receipt for your present. I booked your plot at cemetery. You ruin it every time.
So
what did you talk about with your wife over dinner? Death?
Well, occasionally we will. I mean,
birthday dinner, death?
No. We didn't talk about it explicitly during the birthday dinner, but she has this fear too. I think it's part of how we bonded when we started dating, that we have this very keen awareness of our mortality, and every now and again we'll catch each other's eye, and we'll know that is a fact that we can't do anything about. But
is this a really weird form of flirting you do? Is this like...
Hey, darling.
Is this foreplay?
You're so worried about dying.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a weird one for you. It's got nothing. It's slightly off topic, but the first date she and I ever had...
you went to a mortuary?
No, we went... This is weird. We're both atheists, but we went for this long walk around Kensington. We met in town, and we were going for this long walk. We had a drink, we had dinner, and then we were walking past this church, and we heard this... This is ridiculous, isn't it? We heard this music coming from the church, and I said, do you want to go in and have a look?
Are you sure it wasn't The Alchemist?
The what?
The Alchemist, it's a pub.
The restaurant?
No, it wasn't that. It was called Kensington Temple, and we actually went in and had part of our date in a church, but we didn't really talk about...
So you don't believe in God?
I personally don't believe in God, no. I did. I grew up in an evangelical church, a happy, clappy church. My mum and dad Christians, my grandparents, really strong religious upbringing. But then when I went to uni, I thought, I don't believe this anymore.
Who do you believe in then?
Just don't think there's anything, Fred. I think when you die, end of the game.
What? But you can't, no, we're digressing here, but that can't happen.
What, you think there is life after death?
Well, you can't just go from this to nothing. There's no such thing as nothing. What, you just goes black and dark, and then that's it. You just... Even if it goes black and dark, it's still black and dark.
That's it, you're dead. There's nothing.
Do you know, think about what happened before you were born. There were millions and billions of years, and you and I and Rob and Mike and Stan, and the listeners, we didn't experience anything. I think when you die, that's it. The end of experience.
But what is the end? What is the end? What is it? What is it? Explain it. They can't. There's no such thing as nothing.
I don't think time ends when we die. I just think
I'm not saying it does. What I'm saying is there's no such thing as nothing. So if it stops, say like you go to sleep and you shut your eyes and that's all you see.
Yeah.
So if you die, the worst case scenario, if that's what it is, it's still something.
Well, it's like a general anaesthetic.
Yeah.
You remember you were talking about you having lots of
Well,
general
I don't
anaesthetic.
think they put you in hospital bed and tell you to count to 10 when... I've got to 4, that'll be it. And you wake up starving.
So when you die, I think when you die, Matthew, I'm with you a little bit because I sometimes think that when you die, that's it. There's nothing. That's it. It's it. It's over.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but there's something.
It can't be.
I'm a believer.
Do you think you come back like as a bird or a?
I can't
Depends
get
how good you were in your last life.
You think you don't? But do you believe in reincarnation? I can't get my head around the idea of ceasing to exist. I really
reason
can't.
I believe in reincarnation is that Elvis died in 1977 and I was born that year. So if you need any more proof on the fact that reincarnation does exist, I am living, walking, breathing fact.
Matthew, but you know when you say about, because I thought about it, and when you said about death, and I've thought that. You know, at times, like only occasionally, that when you die, that is it. What? Yeah. It's it.
That's it.
It's it.
And
I disagree. I reckon when I die, I'll go somewhere else where I've got a good knee. Really, I've got a good knee and I can still play cricket.
And then Elvis will come back. So who was Elvis before he was Elvis?
Huh?
Like Julius Caesar. Who was your previous incarnation?
Well, it goes all the way back to Jesus.
So do you
just pick a few big names out till you get to Jesus, and then you end up with Elvis, then me. And I don't know who I'm going to pass it on to.
So how do you explain fortune tellers then?
What?
Fortune tellers.
Are you asking Fred or me?
Or what they call clairvoyance.
Oh, it's total
clairvoyance?
nonsense.
Yeah, that's what they're called. But seriously, my friend, right?
My wife's auntie's one.
But is she really?
No way.
She is. My wife's auntie.
Is she?
Karen, yeah, she's one of these.
Clairvoyant?
She speaks to people. We've had Sunday dinner round at Anne's, and she said, someone wants to talk. She's like, give it a rest, give it a rest.
Can we get someone in to talk about Robbie's future?
Oh, well, I know that. Grim. Long periods of no work.
I'm not seeing you for 2 weeks.
It's coming off a cliff.
I've missed you. I've been hanging around with my theatre mates, being nice.
Watching if you miss somebody, hammer them. But you know what, Matthew, seriously, one of my best pals from Wales called Quags, right?
Quags?
Yeah, he lost...
What's his full name?
Tony Quaglia, right?
Quags?
Yeah, so he lost... He went to see a clairvoyant. That's what they're called, aren't they? Not a fortune, a clairvoyant in a room. And obviously, he didn't tell anything, and this is true, that the lady said to him, you've experienced a loss. And he went...
No, but that's not a clairvoyant. That's telling him what happened in the past. That's a medium, isn't it?
Oh, that's what I meant, not a clairvoyant.
A medium.
A medium.
I'm a medium.
You're not.
You're a large way. Gigantism.
Well, we go on to that topic after. And so a medium, and the lady said to Quags, You've suffered a loss.
Well, you have, haven't you? Everyone has.
Everyone has.
But let me finish.
Down,
but let me finish. He said, yeah. And she said, right, I can see it. I can see it. She said, you're bending down. So he went, yeah.
Hey?
Yeah, listen. He said, I can see you bending down and stroking him. And he lost his cat. And I'm serious. I'm totally serious. He lost his cat.
I'm so glad you said cat then.
Yeah.
He's bending down, stroking it. Oh.
I'm serious. He lost his cat, and she said, not just one, two. He lost Bill and Ben, his cats, and she said, they're missing you. It's cats. And how would she know that?
Well, not only is she a medium, she's also Dr. Doolittle. She can speak to animals.
How would she know that?
Rob, think about it. Most people, or a lot of people, have had a pet and they've been bereaved when the pet dies, and they have stroked the pet for the time that they had the pet. And if he had said, no, actually, I don't remember bending down and stroking it, she would have transitioned into something else.
Don't you believe in mediums?
Definitely not.
I used to have a tortoise, right, when I was a kid. When I was about 9. And it was called Fred. I painted Fred on his back so no one wouldn't lose it. And then came out one day, and it's in the garden. It's not moving, and Fred's passed away. He's dead. So I'm upset. I've told my mum. So my mum said, "Oh, when you're at school, I'll bury him. I'll bury him." So she put him on top at bin, right? so the bin men came. And then they've lifted the bin up to empty it before wheelie bins. To empty
Yeah.
it. It's in a tortoise on the top. They thought, nobody tortoise in the bin here. So what they did, the bin men went round, put it in the back garden. I've come home from school. It's a miracle! It's a miracle! He's back, Mum, he's back. Everyone's like, what's going on? He's got that tortoise. I played with a dead tortoise for a week.
No way.
Yeah, my mum hadn't got the heart to tell me. It's like, have you seen that film, Dumb and Dumber, when the kid's playing with a dead budgie? And they're like, come on, he's just a bit shy. He's just a bit shy.
I had a tortoise called Dixie. Dixie. He was after Dixie McNeil, the Wrexham striker, believe it or not.
Wow.
Really? Was he just as quick?
Dixie. True.
Yeah, Fred, didn't you have a dog called Fred as well?
I had a dog called
Well,
Fred.
how many of your pets
and a
are called
teddy
Fred?
I got a teddy called Fred.
What's going
I'm
on
a bit of a
there?
one-trick pony, to be honest with you, Matthew. If I had a pony, it'd be called Fred.
Should we go on to topic number
Let's
one?
do one, come on.
Okay, so this is youth sports. Robbie, you did a fantastic topic on this a few weeks ago, but this is very topical today because the England under-17s have won the World Cup. Incredible display, coming back from 2 down against Spain to win 5-2. The question we were asking is transition. How do you move from a youth team to a first team, a senior team? I think a lot of young sports people will be interested in this, a lot of parents. Robbie, what's your take on this in a football context?
Are we talking about our own experiences, Matthew, or are we talking about in general?
Tell you what, let's do a bit of both,
Yeah,
because
so-
I think both are very significant, but perhaps we'll start with our own personal
So
experiences.
my own personal experience, at 17, I was on my apprenticeship, YTS at Manchester United in the class of 92. And then that age at 18, you then... so basically at 14, I signed a 4-year scholar. So you're there till you're 18. And then at 18 is a decision whether you get kept on. So I got a year pro. So from 18 to 19, then... It was different then, Fred and Matthew, because it was the Pontins League. So you'll be playing with the Pontins League. Yeah, it was like
Pontins.
Are you sure he was a professional?
yeah.
You know, a red card.
I had a red card. So it was the Pontins League, which was the reserve team league. So at 18, you would have the chance to play with the people from the first team who were injured. So, for instance, at the age of 18, I played with Brian Robson. I played with Brian McClare. I played with all those legends who were coming back to get their fitness back so they could go and play in the first team. And that was a great learning curve for me, you know, playing with internationals, you know, learning from them, the experience. And that was a huge thing for me. But at 18, it's a huge decision. Are you good enough? I got a year pro. And then for me, I was released. I was told...
Right, is that when you got released
19,
by United?
19. So then I was released. And then I had a car crash on the way home, as it's well documented. You know, ended up in hospital when I got told I wasn't good enough. And then...
you said that's well documented.
I didn't know that.
I'm not aware of this.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, really? Oh. So basically, so you imagine this. So the day I got released from Manchester United at the age of 19... I was in Sir Alex Ferguson's office. He said, listen, you're not going to be good enough. So I got my car. It was a little...
Was that his exact words?
Yeah, he said, we've got other centre forwards here who are better, you know, but you will come back to haunt me one day.
He said that's
yeah.
right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I got in my little Fiesta, 1.1 finesse, white wheel.
You've gone full circle now. You got a minute.
Yeah, I know. It was a 1.1 Fiesta finesse. So I'm driving the 52 miles it is from Manchester to Wrexham. So on the way... I stopped the car and phoned my mate because there was no hands-free in those days. So I stopped the car and I phoned my mate and said, Jamie, do you fancy going for a game of snooker? Because before I get to my parents' house to tell them I'd been released, because it was, I don't know if I was embarrassed. I don't know if I thought I let them down. I don't know if I thought I was going to be a footballer.
It's interesting.
But basically, it was unbelievable, Fred and Matthew, because... You think that for all those years, 5 years of your life, 14 to 19, you're growing up, you've got a new family, you've got all your mates, you've been taken away from your family. And then at 19, honestly, it was, thank you very much, bye.
Wow.
Did you see it coming?
No, I was injured. I'm not making excuses. I never make excuses. But, you know, I had a double hernia that season of the first year pro, which got infected. And I think I missed 3 months or 4 months of that season. And I wasn't good enough, Fred. I wasn't good enough. But I didn't see it coming. No, I thought I might have got another year because I was injured to try and prove myself. But at 19, you're told, that's it, you're not good enough. You might come back to haunt me. I got in my car and it's unbelievable. Driving away, that was it.
Yeah.
All 5 years of my life, gone. And it was just, thank you very much, bye, move on to the next person. It was incredible, really. So all those thoughts go in my head as I'm driving home. So I phoned my mate Jamie and said, let's go for a game of snooker. So on the way, I stopped to meet him. It was at a pub called the Wheat Chief, just a car park. So I pulled, what are you laughing at?
I don't know. It's just the details, brilliant.
Yeah,
Keep going.
the Wheat Chief. So
He's going to tell us what his break was in a minute. I got 2 yellows, 3 pinks and a blue.
Why are you being horrible again?
I'm not being horrible, just the detail, like the detail.
Anyway,
Jamie had a Coke, I had a Diet Coke. We had a bag of nuts. 2 bags of cheese and onion, a bag of salt and vinegar. Good job, Jamie. Had 10p for lights. Oh.
Right? It's a proper story, this. It's a proper story. So anyway, we get in the car. He's got a blue Fiesta. Right?
Right.
So this is when it gets a bit serious. Right, let's go for a game of snooker. So we travel to the snooker club, which is in Gresford, which is about 2 miles. So we go past my old school, and it's where it happened as well. Is just, I don't know if it's fate. My first school was Guernsey Junior School. So as we go past there, it was a straight road, and there was a bend, and I was in the car, and I wasn't concentrating, and I lost it on the bend, and there was a row of parked cars, and there was another car coming the other way, and it was a head-on collision. Head-on collision.
Way.
Yeah, honestly.
Sort of speed.
About 40, 50 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, head-on collision. Thankfully, the elderly gentleman and lady in the other car were okay, but they went to hospital, but they were okay. Thank goodness. So I hit them. Jamie, my friend, went into the back of my car. So I was crushed in the middle. I had to get pulled out of the car through the window. The car was a write-off. So then the ambulance comes. I couldn't feel my left arm. Couldn't feel my left arm. Couldn't feel it. So obviously it must have hurt my neck.
Wow.
And that might have been where I got my neck from in later years to come. So I go to hospital. I'm lying in the bed. So you think this now. So the hospital phone mum and dad to say your son is in hospital. He's had a car accident. Wow. On the day he was getting. They didn't know at the time, Matthew, that I was getting released. They had no idea I'd been released. Yeah. So you imagine this. They come to the hospital, worried about their son. Is he going to be okay? What state he's in? Because they told him it was a head-on car collision. It's 3-car pile-up. And he had to get pulled from the car. The neck brace on. I was in the board. So I go to the hospital. I'm lying in bed. Mum and dad come into the hospital and say, well, they were crying. I was crying. And I had to tell them from my hospital bed that I've been released.
Wow.
And that was the big thing. And obviously, they weren't concerned about it in the slightest. So the day I got released from Manchester United,
you had a car crash.
I had a car, and I couldn't feel my left arm. And then, so in my head, I'm thinking, wow, I was a footballer for Manchester United yesterday. I had everything. It was my world. And that day, I was lying in a hospital bed, couldn't feel my left arm, being pulled out of a car crash, and I lost my second family in terms of the players I grew up with, and I had nothing. That was it.
The trajectory here, Rob, is really interesting because remember last week you were talking about, I think it was the scout Hugh Roberts, who turned up. He saw you play. You are selected for the United youth team. That's a situation of massive euphoria for you and your parents. Now you've gone through this transition. And they've told you you're not good enough to get into the senior team. So this is, in addition to the accident, that is a huge crushing blow. Did you at any point say to yourself, you know what, maybe I should turn my back on football? Obviously, you didn't make that decision, but how did you psychologically build back up to a situation where you're prepared to give it another go?
It was because that's the only thing I'd ever done. When people used to ask you, what do you want to be? My answer was a footballer, whether you're good enough or not. But there'll be people now who will say, what do you want to be? I want to be a footballer. But I think there's a stat, isn't there, out of 12,000 kids in the academy system now from the age of 8 to 18, 12,000, 0.9% of people make it.
But in your case, I think what's also quite interesting is the parting comment that Sir Alex Ferguson
You've
made.
come back to haunt me.
Come back to haunt you. And if you look at you in your career on and off the pitch, you do that, don't you?
Yeah.
Tenacious.
If someone says against what you can do, you prove them wrong.
It's like,
and you've done that time after time with the clubs you've been to.
Yeah. It's like with radio.
Your broadcasting career.
And the podcast, people say
come and go and had a crack at you.
There's a few people said to us, Fred, it won't work. We've had it on 606, it won't work. And you fight against these people. So those words, Matthew, you'll come back to haunt me. That's what, in a way, it's amazing because those words inspired me.
Yeah.
Those words from obviously one of the greatest man's ever been. When I was lying there, that rung to me. I must have something.
But I can't imagine as well for Sir Alex Ferguson. It doesn't strike me as a bloke who places any words that don't mean something.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
You know better than us, Matthew.
Matthew will agree with that one, of course.
The guy's a genius.
Yeah. So then what happened was, right, I went home. Dario Gradi rung me and said, listen, I want you to come back to Crewe, because I was at Crewe from 13 to 14, and then I went to Manchester United. So I went back, and this is where it's men's, like I would say, men's football.
Yeah.
So now you go to Crewe, and you are playing with 35, 36, 37, aggressive, edit, kick it, clear it. And I went there as a skinny 19-year-old, no confidence, and I thought, I'm going to struggle here. And there was a period from 19 to 20, I didn't play for the first team. I was playing in the B team, in the Crewe B team, against Burnley B team. And it was like, wow, this is sink or swim.
So when you see these lads who played at Under-17 World Cup and won it, and I saw a few stats on the TV today saying how much they played in first-team football, and it's very small.
Yeah.
So what advice would you pass on to these young lads now who... they've done something amazing, but now their careers have got to kick on? What would you say to them?
See, it's a great debate, Fred, and I come through the class of 92 where there was a generation of players who, people say, is it harder to get an opportunity in the first team now because of the amount of money in the Premier League? So look at Manchester City, Phil Foden, for instance. He won the Golden Ball in the Under-17 World Cup, the best player. Will he get an opportunity week in, week out in Manchester City's first team, where the manager really has to win trophies because the longevity is not there? So will the manager put his faith in a youngster when he can buy players like De Bruyne, Sterling, Aguero, Sane, Bernardo Silva? So it's a very difficult pathway. What happened at Manchester United? David Beckham went to Preston on loan. I don't think there's nothing wrong with a generation of under-17s now. These kids going out on loan, experience, football in the Championship, the sharp end, learning different sides of the game, because now in these top clubs now, your academies from the age of 8. You don't know, in my opinion, the dirty side of football. You don't know, everything's done for you. Everything's done for you. If you go into division, I remember Frank Lampard went to Swansea, washing your own kit, washing your own training kit. It's okay, that doesn't happen now to an extent, but I think that these...
I did that. I had to do that internationally.
Yeah. Did you really?
Yeah, you get 8 shirts for the season. You got to take them home and wash them.
Really?
Yeah, and then I got my trousers. Go and wash my trousers, my training kit.
See, it's the pathway.
My undies had skids in all summer, but my shirts were clean.
What was it like for you, Fred, to transit? Did you find...
Can I just finish?
Go on.
Can I just finish? So, obviously, the pathway now is quite difficult for these kids. But I look at it, Matthew, and I might be completely wrong here, but the class of 92 I take as a prime example. Gary Neville, Keith Gillespie, Nicky Butt, David Beckham, and there was Scholesy. That first team at the time of Manchester United had Brian Robson, Lee Sharp, Gary Pallister, Steve Bruce, Paul Parker, Dennis Irwin, Mark Hughes. These players, because they were good enough, got into the first team, and they had a chance. Yes, they had a chance. They had a chance in Europe. They had a chance in the League Cup. And because they were good enough, they sustained their form and then went on to be absolute legends. So I'm a great believer. If you're good enough, you'll have a great career.
But don't you think there are two things, Robbie? On the one hand, you had a group of young players who were having incredible success. They won the FA Youth Cup. They were being acclaimed. People said that they had a shot at glory, but it never affected their work ethic. They didn't start going out and buying fast cars and trading on the fact that they were becoming good players. It didn't go to their heads at all. They continued to graft. They went on loan. Beckham played fantastically at Preston.
Oh, stop it.
And at the same time, though, Robbie, you still need opportunities. Ferguson did give them an opportunity. He took a risk. Remember early on when Hansen said on Match of the Day, you'll win nothing with kids. They had a bad game and he was absolutely castigated, but he continued to take the risk on these young players because he believed in them. Do you think that you need...
I went out one night in London, right? And I was out in London with Corden and Jack Whitehall and Beckham and Dave Gardner.
Yep.
And we had a few in London. And then we went for a pub crawl around Notting Hill. All right, so we're going for a pub crawl, walking from pub to pub. And I'm walking with these lads. And Alan Hansen was coming down the other way. All right? So he said hello to everyone. And Beckham wasn't really having him.
Really?
As he walked past him, he goes, "You were nothing but kids." just shouting at him, yeah.
So, Matthew, you know what you say about opportunities?
Yeah.
And, you know, look at Chelsea. So Chelsea and Man City, you would say, have got the best youth teams. Yeah, I think Chelsea and City have been in the final for the last few years.
Yep.
I might be wrong, but I think they've been there or thereabouts. Chelsea sending their youngsters out on loan. I think they've got like 30-odd players out on loan, and that's given them experience. But the big question is, will they get an opportunity in the Chelsea first team? You look at Loftus-Cheek; he's gone on to Chelsea and is doing extremely well. It's gone to Crystal Palace on loan. Loftus-Cheek. Tammy Abrahams has gone from Chelsea, Fred, to Swansea on loan, and he's just been called into the England squad. So it just goes to show, Matthew, that opportunities are there, no matter what club you're at in the Premier League or even Championship. If you're good enough, you'll have. You know, I am a great believer. If you're good enough, there's luck come into it.
Do you know what I think? When I was a kid, I played senior cricket. I was playing an under-15 game for Lancashire, and I'd come off, and then the scout came over from Lancashire, lovely old fella called John, and he said, "Do you want to play for the second team tomorrow?" I says, "I don't know what it is. What are you on about?" He said, "The second team, Lancashire." I said, "We're going to ask my dad." So the next day, I was playing in a second team match for Lancashire, and I got a few runs, not many, and did all right. And then I started playing more and more. And I think from an ability point of view, at 15, 16, I was good to go. I reckon I could have played first-class cricket and done well. I ended up playing when I was 17. But then looking back, I wasn't emotionally right to be playing at that age.
Yeah.
I don't think I was too... I'm struggling for words here.
Don't look at me. I haven't got the best words.
I was too immature.
Yeah.
Not as a fact where I'm going to be have a colouring book in the dressing room, but emotionally, I was immature. I'd be doubting myself. I was unsure of myself. There's a lot of things going on in the dressing room, a lot of talk and things. I didn't know what they're on about. And then I remember my first trip away. I went when I was 15. I ended up going to London with Lancashire, and we got rained off for 3 days. I was in the book. I probably said this before. I was in the bookies every day. I was in nightclubs. I was in restaurants. I was drinking. And I had to give a chat in assembly when I got back.
At 15?
15. So I reckon, ability-wise, I reckon I was a better batsman and cricketer at 16 than I was at 2021.
Wow.
I was so much better because I think I played a lot of... I played for Lancashire when I was 17. I remember my debut, I think 16. Played 17. I remember walking out to bat in a Sunday League game against Yorkshire at Old Trafford. And this is cricket, so there's 15,000 on, which is a massive crowd. I remember my eyes had gone and I couldn't function. I was like, got the jitters, and I then got put back in the second team, and I think that stunted my development as a player. I was surrounded by lads who weren't particularly professional, who were never going to be professional cricketers for any period of time, and I felt I got held back a little bit. Where if I'd have been around the best players, around the first team a lot more at that age, I'd have been a better player.
What happens to cricketers then, Fred? Because I'll come on to the footballers. So, you know, the ones aren't good enough from that 17 to 21, George, or 16 to 21.
Yeah. If
you've been at Lancashire or Yorkshire or Hampshire, Somerset, in that system, and what happens if does somebody say to you, "Well, you're not good enough"? What happens? Where do they go? What happens?
For instance, I got signed. I was getting paid whilst I was still at school. Left at 16, went on to a summer contract, so you got paid from April till September. Worked at Old Trafford in the winter. Worked at Woolworths behind the record counter. I signed a professional contract at 16. I signed a 3-year contract, and I thought, you know what? I'll give this a go for 3 years. If it goes well, brilliant. If it doesn't, I'll go back to school. I'll go to college or I'll go to university after that a bit later. And luckily it turned out all right. Yeah. But then you look at some lads...
Yeah, what?
Well, they're hanging on. They're getting paid somewhere between 8 and 16 grand a year at that time. And then it comes to an end. And it's like you get called into your contracts meeting and we're offering you another 2 years, or unfortunately, you're done. Go and empty your locker and off you go.
That's it.
Would that be part of the advice you both gave then to young players? They should have a fullback position.
Well, that is the massive thing.
Yeah.
Imagine, as a cricketer, especially in them days, you finish in September, you had all the winter off, you got plenty of time to do something.
Yeah.
Where people don't do anything. And now I'm hearing things in football where a footballer gets to his end of his career at 19 or gets released at 20 and they want a handout from the club.
Yep.
I don't agree with that.
Yep.
Why should you get a handout? You've had every opportunity to be a professional sportsman. You've had the chance to do it. You've had the chance to work. If you're not good enough, that's just the way of the world.
Yeah.
But whilst you are doing that, think about doing something else.
That's so true. And I think that this idea that football is a terrain of shattered dreams, that these players are given a chance and they're sold this shot at glory and then it all goes wrong and therefore the clubs are to blame. I think that it should be a situation where players and their parents are cautious about what agents are telling them, about what scouts are telling them, about what clubs are telling them, because it's not certain they're going to get through. 0.9 of 1%, that's less of 1 in 100 of these academy players will make the breakthrough. So that what you were saying, Fred, I think the parents out there should encourage their children to play with passion, to play with dedication, to give it everything. But there is enough hours in the day to continue with your schooling. You were working behind the counter at Woolworths selling records.
I worked in the club shop up the ground, but also as well, this is another thing. I've just thought of this off the top of my head, which is quite staggering. Right? You think as young lads, maybe, you know what, maybe you get blinded by the fact that you're going to be a professional sportsman and you have your eye on the ball all the time and that's all you want to do. So you take the gamble and you sacrifice what else you could do.
Like you did and I done.
Yeah. But what I don't understand is you have a career for 15, 16 years, know it's coming to an end at some point, but then don't prepare for it. You're not a kid anymore now.
Yep.
You're an adult.
Yep.
You got responsibilities. You got a family. Think about what you're going to do next. But players don't. You see so many sad stories.
I think people get so intoxicated by this incredible opportunity to become a professional sports person, to make money, to have that shot at glory, to play at Lord's or at Old Trafford, that they forget two things. One, they might not make it, which is a high probability. And two, that career will at some point come to an end.
It's okay saying that, Matthew.
Yeah.
But if anybody said to you, Matthew, when you were playing table tennis, I'm sure all you wanted to be was a table tennis. And when I was at school, and when I was 15, 16, what do you want to do? Just be a footballer. Yep. And it's okay saying you should prepare, but the realisation is for any youngster out there who's at a Premier League club now, you think you're going to be a footballer, and you don't want to think, well, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z out of when I've got time, because you don't. All you focus on being that sportsman for that particular sport you're involved in, no?
Well, I think parents can easily get carried away as well. You get a young person who's in a youth football team getting into the second team of a Premier League club, beginning to earn a decent amount of money. Suddenly they're getting big bank checks into their account and they think they've made it. They think their success is assured. Their parents are buying cars off the back of their children's success without realising this might not transition into a long-term career. I think that is massively dangerous. I was very lucky. I was like you, Rob, 16. You'd think of me as a boffin. 16, I left school to play professional table tennis and my dad was horrified.
Professionally?
Yeah. So in my first year at sixth form, I was doing 3 A-levels, maths, economics.
But I imagine that'd have been easy for you.
What, to leave school?
No, I mean to then do your A-levels.
Yeah, but that's the thing, Fred. For a while, I was saying to my dad, they don't matter. The only thing that matters in my life is becoming the top player in the world.
Yeah, I get that.
Can you imagine my dad? This is a guy who became a professor. He was, he's from a Pakistani
You got a bit of pedigree.
Yeah, he's from a Pakistani background where education matters a lot. And he's looking at this boy, this naive young boy who walks out on school a few months into his lower sixth doing A-levels to play table tennis. And I'm at the club every day, 9 in the morning to 6 at night, training with every single ounce of my being. The ambition is so intense. And he looked at me for a while. He said, okay, I'm going to let you carry on down this path for a bit. Then he just kept dropping in these comments that, one day your table tennis career will come to the end. It's possible you won't make the top in the world. We'll support you, son, in everything you decide to do. But why not have a fallback position? Why not have an insurance policy? Why not have a pathway from sport into something else when you get into your 30s? And it was him, really, who convinced me that I needed to do the A-levels. And yeah, Fred, I could do them in my spare time because there's plenty of time in the day to train as hard as you want, but then to go and do something else. And interestingly, Rob, this under-17 team, this will sound weird, but they have a welfare and education advisor for every single youth team of both genders, all the way from 17 up to 21s. And at the European Championships, I think it was in Croatia, 6 or 7 of the players were doing their GCSEs, some were doing A-levels, others were doing BTECs. Over at the World Under-17s, it was in India, wasn't it? They also were doing their revision, because there was enough time. Instead of going on their PlayStations, they were actually trying to do other things that would equip them with the softer skills that might enable them to transition out of football at some point. Yeah. Now, I know some listeners will say, well, what a waste of time. It isn't a waste of time. It's a great thing
Matthew,
to do.
We're talking about the elite players here at under-17 level who have won a World Cup for England. You think how many players from the age of 17 to 21, whether you are at... We can talk about the elite, which those boys obviously are, but the kids at... Just for instance, Bury, Shrewsbury, Wrexham. The players of that age, all they've known is football. Yeah. When you get told you're not good enough, like I was at Manchester United, you think if you're at Manchester United, you think, I might have a chance League One, League Two. But if you're let go from a League One or League Two side, where'd you go?
It's not
conference.
What?
Conference.
No, but even that, you might not, if you get let go by League One or League Two, even the conference is not far different. So where's the fallback, Matthew? Where's when those boys are told you're not good enough? What? And they've got no education, and they've just put all their life into from the age of 8 to trying to be a professional footballer. When you're told at a lower league club you're not good enough, what?
Okay, so my honest answer to this is that clubs have a duty of care. They should be honest with their players, not sell them a completely unrealistic dream. But at the same time, any player and any parents who go into football with the hope of making it to the top should always be aware that it probably won't happen. And there should be some realistic appraisal of the fact that life is sometimes about failure. All of the people who aspire to win a Nobel Prize don't win a Nobel Prize. All of the people who aspire to get into Harvard University don't necessarily get in. That's not a reason to give up on life. Can I just ask you one question on the sort of... Fred was talking about the social dynamic of being a young boy and finding himself in a senior team. Really interesting. For you, you're at Crewe, you're in the B team, and then you go to some other clubs and you're young. The older players, often people say, well, they should bring the young players through, but you're a threat to their position in the first team lineup. Yeah. Did you actually find that in the dressing room you have these strong characters who are a bit resentful of your presence?
Well, Crewe, because of, the amount of players that have come through the Crewe Academy. You look at Danny Murphy, you look at Gareth Wally, you look at so many players Crewe have sold, on for money. There's a lot more. David Platt. There's loads, and I think that was the way with Crewe to you learn your football at Crewe, and then I think there's a realisation of the senior professionals is that is the way that Crewe done it. So who's the next one going to be? You talk who's the next one off the conveyor belt, and I was nowhere near it for a year, and I honestly thought, am I going to be a footballer? Fred asked me the question earlier. I honestly thought I was 8.5 stone wet through. So I've gone from playing from boys at my own age, Fred, to them playing with 14 stone men with beards, and I was an 8.5 stone skinny kid playing different kind of football, and it was like, oh, this is it. I'm not going to be a footballer, and there was just a fight and this desire in me to say, no, I'm going to be. And it was, is it luck? Is it attitude? Because there's different pathways, Fred, isn't there? As an athlete, you can take different roads. I stayed on the road of not drinking, not going out, being totally professional. And in the end, I sacrificed a lot to get where I wanted to get.
And good for you, Rob, that you did. Fred, can I just ask you? Yeah. You've talked about your influence on the England dressing room when you were one of the best players in the world, and your mood could bring up or take down the team, and you were very visible as a presence in the dressing room. But I'd be really interested, because I've got to know you well doing this podcast. When you were a young person, just through adolescence, going into the dressing room at Lancashire or England, and you weren't the top dog, did you find it difficult to integrate into that sort of social dynamic?
Massively. I was invisible, really.
Really?
I just sit in the corner. I didn't say anything.
Wow.
Especially with the first team. You had the second team dressing room and the first team dressing room. And to get in the first team dressing room, you had to knock on the door. So when I was playing with the first team, I was still changing in the other room. And that was the smoking room.
Interesting.
So all the smokers would come and smoke in the dressing room. But it was when I started having a drink with the lads, that's when the acceptance came in. And you talk about what were other people like with you. I found the better the players, the better they were with you. Yeah. It was the fringe players. It was them who were just nasty. Yeah. I remember playing...
Because you're a threat to them, right?
Yeah, I remember, I had to play a game for Lancashire under-19s against the second team when I was 15. And we played at Old Trafford. And I went out to bat. And my mate Paddy, who Rob knows.
Paddy's a great fella.
I didn't know him. We lived together for 7 years and best of mates. And we went out to bat. And all of a sudden, he's 2 years older than me, so he's 17. And all the second team lads, all these lads on the fringe of playing or greatness, just started hammering us. Wow. Just started hammering us, abusing us. I'm a kid. So then Paddy just came down the wicket. He's a scouser. He's hard as nails. He says, are we going to settle for this or what? I says, what? He says, let's start giving them back. So yeah, go on, I'm in. So the two of us just closed ranks and started just letting them have it. I got 80 odd, he got 80 odd, and we did well, and we came off. And then after that, because we had to go back into the second team, we were treated a little bit differently then.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was weird. I remember, at 15 playing against Kent, and they had a bowler who was playing for England, Richard Ellison. And I went out to bat. First ball, he just put it on the front foot, so I've screamed him for 4. And he's come down the wicket and he's called me everything. You effing C-bomb, T, everything. Really? I'm a 15-year-old kid. Wow. So I said to him, if you bowl at them, mate, I'll just do it again. And I hit him for 3 4s on the bounce, my first 3 balls, as this young cheeky kid. And then all of a sudden, everyone just started lumping into me. Some of the abuse I was getting as a 15-year-old was bizarre. It's a good job I went to a rough school.
Was there anyone, Fred, in the England team when you first started playing for England?
Mate. It was shocking.
But was there anyone that you can pick out as being wonderful in helping you to integrate? Or was there anyone who was just so nasty that it made it actually not the pleasure you hoped it would be?
It was a real mixed bag. Because I got picked for England at 20, and looking back, I probably wasn't ready. I'd only been bowling 3 weeks, and I was batting all right. And I turned up, and as you do, it was at Nottingham. You turn up to the hotel, and Michael Atherton and Gus Fraser
Gus Fraser
took me out for dinner the night before with a reporter called Henderson.
Michael Henderson.
I like Hendo, he's a bit out there. So I've had dinner with these, we've had a few, we've had a lovely night, and Athers and Big Gus have looked after me so well. Wow. Next day we go in, and then I'm going up the stairs with my kit. And what happens is at cricket dressing rooms, everyone has the spot in which they're changing. Yep. So they all change in their own spot. So I've gone in thinking someone's going to move up. I'm just stood there with my bags. Nobody's moved, nobody's done anything. All right then. So I went at Trent Bridge. There's a room with the washing machines at the back and all the towels and everything. So I just put my kit in there. I changed with the washing machines.
No.
Seriously, nobody gave me anything. It was a real mixed bag of the reaction from people. Wow. Darren Gough, amazing man. Amazing, unbelievable, great man. Gus Fraser I mentioned. Who else after that? Struggling a little bit. Bumble was coach.
You
so
changed
that was nice.
with it. You changed with it.
Changed on my own with washing machines.
To be fair, them clothes got to be going to do them.
And then even to the fact was, you got your 3 Lions cap, and you got a presentation cap, and it had George and the Dragon on. Yeah. So I got that. First session of the day, I've gone out. I thought it was my cap, but I've got wrong cap on. So I put it on my bag and put my proper cap on. And my cap got nicked.
No.
So I lost my cap, my presentation cap. Oh. It was, I promise you, it was awful. And all these older players, they'll bang on about it. It wasn't that bad. I promise you, lads, it was.
Wow.
So come in as a young player. You play for England. This is your dream. This is the one thing you want to do.
Amazing.
What they don't realise is you're walking into a dressing room of people I idolised.
Yeah.
I looked up to. These were watched on telly. I've dreamt about playing with it. They couldn't even be asked to move the bag to let me get changed. Jog on, lads. Jog on.
Fred, I mean, look, tell anything more that you want to say, but do you know, the first ever senior training camp that I went on for England, and it was in this small room at Lillyshaw National Sports Centre.
Used to be a school of excellence there for football.
That's right. Well, I got to know Sol Campbell there and some of the other youngsters.
All right, pick that name up.
We used to play in Ford Hall, just a few tables. But Fred, when you were talking, it brought to my mind something I don't think I'd remembered for maybe 20 years. But I remember walking into that senior training camp with Desmond Douglas and Paul Day and all of these people that I idolised, and my heart was beating out of my chest. It was less worry about getting on the table and playing with them than it was of sitting down with them and having a chat and being integrated. And I was frightened beyond belief. And unlike you, I was really lucky that Des, he brought me in and he sat me down and he talked. They could see how terribly nervous I was. But these are the bits of sport that aren't seen. We see the players on the pitch, but often it's off the pitch, in the dressing room, in the ante-room, in the meeting room, where a lot of the real challenges can you relate to any of this, Rob?
Because I had everything at Manchester United, then went to Crewe, and it was a bit different because the players at Crewe. So the difference in our careers, Freddie at 20 was playing for England. When I was at 20, I was in Division 2, thinking, "Am I going to be a footballer?" So the Eagles in the Crewe dressing room couldn't have been Eagles because they were in Division 2. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But having said that, this is England cricket in 90s. Statistically, the second worst we've ever had. Yeah. And they had egos. Well, it outweighed their ability. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
Yep, so true.
Wow, yeah.
So true.
Not won an Ashes for 21 years and we rescued it. Hey, and we were good lads.
But Matthew, so it's a fascinating debate of is it in cricket, Fred, and Matthew table tennis, is it just me, or am I wrong to think that obviously a lot of things have got to conspire from the age of 17 to 20 or 21? If you're good, I'm a firm believer, if you're good enough, if you're good enough, you will be a professional sportsman. So do you think this, to finish this off, do you think these kids in the under 17, Ryan Brewster, he's at Liverpool, Phil Foden, do you think Wayne Rooney burst onto the stage at 17, didn't he? For Everton, and that goal against Arsenal, went on to be one of the best players the Premier League's ever seen. Yep. Do you think that this group of players, if they're good enough, they will get into the Arsenals, the Manchester Uniteds, the Chelseas, and stay there?
Do you know what I think's overlooked? I think there's undoubtedly these lads, ability-wise, they've won a World Cup. They can kick a football. They can run. They can trap a ball. They can control it. They can cross it, or whatever other skills you need to play football. The biggest thing is for me is that mental side. And I look back on my career when I was that age, and I spoke before about being mentally not ready for that, mentally immature. And that's what I think it'll boil down to with these lads. You can have everything, but your head controls your feet, your head controls your hands and everything else. So I think that's the biggest barrier. See,
because I read a piece in the paper today, Gareth Southgate, and let me just read, because Fred, you made a good point there. It says, Southgate, manager of England's senior side, admonished their display of self-importance. I balance the fact they're young kids in a real moment of ecstasy. Where are they going to think logically about what they're doing? However, I think what we would hope in the future is that the 3 lions is the more important thing. It's the badge on the front of the shirt rather than the name on the back. Because what they've done for the photo, they turned their shirts round, so they had the names for the camera on the front of the shirts.
Nonsense.
So has Gareth Southgate got a point there?
Sack 'em all.
Has Gareth Southgate got a point there, doing the 17s, Matthew?
Fred, were you being ironical, or do you actually think that was a...
Do you know what? Part of me thinks that's disgusting. But then the 17-year-olds,
they've just won the World Cup.
Just won the World Cup.
Yeah.
They're in a situation where they're probably celebrating. Your beans are going, everything's going on.
I totally agree.
And then you turn your shirt round. I saw a picture, I don't know up on about Ben Stokes, which I was upset with. It was on the front cover of a magazine, All Out Cricket, and it was him and Wood, and the other Durham lad, fast ball one. I'm a big fan of both of them. And it was the article was about the new kids on the block type thing.
Yep.
And then the photograph, they had the England caps on, turned to the side and backwards. that really, really upset and offended me. And there's nothing in it. It's not like they're trying to do anything. It's probably, can we do this for the photograph? And it's fine. But I really got upset at that because that's your England cap. And it's true with the shirt as well.
I know exactly what you mean. My intuition looking at that was that these are a decent group of lads.
Yeah.
Who just got slightly carried away in the euphoria of the greatest day of their life.
I'll be honest with you. Who don't get carried away at a win?
Yeah.
And I think coming back to the thing that you were saying, Robbie and Fred, I agree with you that if you're good enough in football or in cricket, talent and ability is quite visible, isn't it? If you're really good at what you do technically and you're strong on the pitch and a manager is going to see that you can contribute to what they're trying to achieve at a football club, you ought to get a break. I think it's too easy for people to make an excuse for their lack of tenacity, the doggedness that you showed, Robbie, when you were rejected by Sir Alex Ferguson but did come back to bite him and you carried on that journey, that particular pathway you took to the top. I think it shouldn't be used as an excuse. Having said all that, Robbie, just to close this off, would you agree, however, that every now and again, wouldn't it be lovely to see Premier League managers taking a risk on youth players who have that skill, the way that Ferguson did with the class of 92, rather than being so paranoid about one bad result that they don't ever take that risk and these players don't transition?
Of course you would love to see them take that risk, Matthew, but in terms of in modern day football, it's such short-termism with managers that if you're in a relegation zone, if you're relegation threatened side, are you going to put your faith in a youngster? Or if you're going to step near to winning the title or a Champions League spot, are you going to put faith in the youngster, or are you going to go for the more experienced player?
Short-termism, as ever.
Is it just one subject this week?
Next. Next topic.
That under 17, Steve, now under 19.
Get more from BBC 5 Live with 5 Live Podcasts.
Sound the alarm as the BBC now has a weekly podcast dedicated to MMA. The MMA show will feature news, interviews and the goings-on in the fastest growing sport in the world. You can join myself, OJ Borg, ex-fighter Dan Hardy, along with journalist Nick Peet and a range of voices from the scene as we focus on everything that catches our eye, from the UFC to the British domestic scene.
Search 5 Live in your podcast app.
Get more from BBC 5 Live.
Next topic, David Unsworth and Joey Barton. So last week, Joey's come out and questioned the body size of David Unsworth. And this is the quote. Unsworth makes Alan Brazil look like an athlete. I used to call him Chipper Unsworth because he used to chip it and lose it every time. I'm a firm believer, this is the substantive point of Barton, that teams reflect their manager, and Everton did today. They were sloppy. So the question is Barton right to say that the manager sets an example, or does body size, if a manager is fat or thin, make absolutely no difference?
Hang on a minute. Are we talking about this? Joey Barton has said... God, can you repeat that?
Basically...
Firstly, I can't believe that we got into a topic which Joey Barton's brought up. And two, it revolves around the size of a football manager and a team reflecting the manager. I mean, who was his manager? Darth Vader? Well, my neck. He was always at it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'll give you the rest of the quote. How can you get players to exert themselves physically as a manager when you're out of shape? He's a glorified PE teacher who shouldn't be in charge of a men's team. Look at him on the touchline. He looks more like a steward.
So what we're saying is then, Alex Ferguson was a bad manager because he couldn't have played. Imagine him running up and down touchline. Arsene Wenger. Tony Pulis looks like he's on night bus. He's not a bad manager, is he?
Matthew, what do you think of those comments?
So, okay, I'm very good friends with Joe.
I like Joey.
Well, take that out of it, Matthew. Let's say this is absolute nonsense. I don't mind Joey Barton. He's been on League of Their Own. I've done a couple of things with him. He's always been lovely.
Yeah, he's an outspoken pundit.
Yeah, but this is just nonsense.
I agree with him in one sense and I disagree with in another. I think if you've got a manager, a coach, they have to set an example in their work ethic. So you mentioned Ferguson. He got to the training ground.
That's about 5 times today you've mentioned him.
But he got to the training ground at the Cliff early and he left late. Same when they moved to Carrington. He was always in there 7 a.m.
That's got nothing to do with it.
No, hang on. So the point that managers have to set an example, if the manager doesn't care, if the manager is lazy, if the manager turns up and hasn't looked at the training videos, hadn't scouted properly, hasn't thought in a forensic way about the diet and the training regime, how on earth is he expected to galvanise his players?
So do we know this about Unsworth?
Well, this is the thing where I disagree with Joe. He's saying that a manager should set an example. That is correct. But he's also saying a manager should set an example in terms of their physique. And I think that's completely wrong. You can be fat or thin, tall or short. Body shape has absolutely nothing to do with it.
What's Joey saying? That you should have all these managers on sidelines in budgie smugglers so we can have a look at the physique? Oh, he's got abs. He'll be a cracking manager. Look at him. Look at the pecs on that lad. It'll be a good team, that one, won't it?
But he's also gone after Ince on exactly the same terrain. He said fantastic player, but he, on the touchline, he went massive. He lost his self-discipline as a leader of men, and that coincided with him not being able to get a job as manager.
Steve Bruce has got many a job.
Exactly. Rob, what's your take on it?
So I like Joey. I've been on shows with Joey. I think at times he speaks very well, and I like listening to him. But I think on this occasion, I think there is a line, and I think that having played for a manager in Steve Bruce, who it doesn't look exactly like he did when he played.
Well, not far off.
I'm just trying to be nice.
I'm only joking, Bruce.
I think it
as if he's listening.
I think listen, it's Joey's opinion, but I think it's opinion I completely and utterly disagree with. Having played for somebody who, physically didn't look like he did when he played, would I listen to Steve Bruce? Yes. Would he inspire me? Yes. Did he get the best out of me? Yes. Did I look over at the touchline and think, oof, Brucey's put a few pounds on? I'm not gonna react to what he says. I think it was nonsense.
But have you ever had a coach and you knew that they weren't giving it 100%? You just knew that they were time wasting.
That's different.
That does undermine things, doesn't it?
Talking about David Unsworth. David Unsworth, as far as I know, Matthew, he's the under-23 manager. And when Joey says about Unsworth makes Alan Brazil like an athlete, I used to call him Chipper Unsworth because he used to chip it and lose it every time. This is the guy, Matthew, who played 364 times in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And we know how it is to be a Premier League footballer, and it's Joey's opinion. But I just think that, Matthew, when I first started being a pundit, I thought, right, I've got to make my name for myself. I've got to try and drop a few massive statements out here, and I done that. But then I reflected on it and think, do you know what? I'm wrong there. I'm wrong. Surely you've got to back it up what you said. And Joey did. He made some eloquent points. That was one part of what he said.
Yeah, it was a longer kind of argument that he was making. So it'd be unfair to extrapolate just from that one quote that we've took.
But Matthew,
actually, on the issue
what is a manager's aesthetically looking, if that's the words I'm looking for, what has that got to do with the way you perform? Surely it's
absolutely
about you.
Nothing.
Fred.
Absolutely nothing.
You've played for...
Well, I've had coaches all different ages and sizes and shapes. Bumble.
Yeah.
He was a good coach. Massive nose, but didn't affect him. Where do you draw the line? Yeah. Dav Watmore, he little fat fella. Then Bob Simpson, he was nearly 70.
But
brilliant. Duncan Fletcher looks like he's been it with a shovel. So didn't matter.
And also, it doesn't matter necessarily whether they happen to be good at the game that they're coaching. So, for example, Guardiola was a fantastic player. Mourinho was not a fantastic player. Ferguson was not. Wenger wasn't a great player. In order to inspire somebody to be good at possession football, you don't need to have played possession football for 20 years. You just need to be able to explain it and expound it and teach it and provide the technical skills. So I think
look at boxing. Look at Freddie Roach.
Yeah.
He's a man, one of the world's best boxing coaches.
Yeah.
Pacquiao he's trained all the good ones, and he's got Parkinson's, hasn't he?
Yeah. Angelo Dundee, one of the great boxing trainers, Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali. He wasn't a great boxer, but he was a fantastic coach. So I think these are two different things. But what you want in a coach, this will sound really weird, the thing I wanted as a coach was somebody who cared as much as I did about winning. Somebody who wanted me to win and was prepared to go the extra mile in everything that they did to help me to win. If it meant phoning sparring partners, if it meant organising the training session for the next morning, if it was analysing the video analysis, all of that stuff, you wanted somebody who cared. And there are coaches in many sports who are time servers, and that is a disaster for any team.
You know what Joey said on Paul Ince as well? Ince was a manager, he can't get a job, fantastic player, great player to watch, I love watching him play, but when you look at him on the touchline, he went massive. You know, what is that? You know, what, massive trophy cabinet, massive bat balance?
Exactly.
You know, better player than me and Joey, in my opinion. But just say then, Joey's hero or your hero. Mm-hmm. Or my hero, just say if Joey's hero, I don't know who it is, Matthew, you know him well, was to put a few pounds on and was eventually to become his football manager, would Joey say the same thing about him? I don't know.
I very much doubt it.
He might, because he's a strong, opinionated character.
But we're agreeing about this, so let's just, can I move it on to it's a similar terrain, but just take a step back for a second. You were talking, Rob, when you went into punditry, that you wanted to drop a statement that would get publicity, that would make waves. Do you think that we need pundits who occasionally can say, you know, there are arguments on both sides, who take a balanced position? Instead of saying, Wenger out, you've got to sack this guy, say, well, actually, there are good arguments for him to be sacked, but he's actually quite a good manager as well. Perhaps he should stay in. Why do we always have to have this polarisation between certain people making outrageous statements on one side of a debate and another group making outrageous statements on the other side of the debate? Why not make it more judicious? You look at 606, a lot of the callers are incredibly tough and extreme. Wouldn't it be nice to hear some more rational arguments in football?
But I just think, though, as you know, somebody who's been in positions of Joey and people, I just think when you've got to get the balance right, of course you have. I think you can be negative and I think you can be positive. But I just think when it becomes about people's looks and people's, you know, the way they are on the touchline, I think that's wrong for me, Matthew.
You know, when you talk about size and weight and everything, it's a dangerous game, you know, because we've seen it in the past. We've seen it in all different walks of life. And if you're going to start judging managers and people and everything on the way they look, the size they are, I think it's absolutely shocking. And that's coming from someone who's been all different shapes and sizes and lost weight in all different types of ways. And I'll be honest with you, no matter who you are, whether you're seen as such a strong character, a weak character, when people start attacking you from a weight point of view, and I did it when I was younger, it is not nice. It really isn't. And we have a laugh and a joke about it and we talk about it. Mm-hmm. But to name and shame people when someone's a football manager trying to do his job. I don't know Dave Unsworth. I don't even particularly know who he is, I'll be honest with you. Yep. But I'm sure doing the best job he can possibly do. And if someone, the only way they can criticise him is where he looks or the size of his body, you're a bit of a knob.
Next topic.
Oh, we're moving on.
Freddie's taking on another new challenge with his musical Fat Friends and Leeds starting this week. Oh. So what's the one thing that we all still want to do that we have never done? Robbie. Come on, Rob.
Do you know what I wanted to do?
I got hairdressing.
It was, this is bizarre, to have muscles.
What?
What, with like... and chips and white wine and parsley sauce. I can get you some. When we leave here, I'll go and take you for some.
No, it was. We're not going back to...
I'll get you a lobster as well if you want. Try a lobster.
We're not going back to previous topics. But one thing I wanted to do was to have muscles, which I'm working my way towards because I was very skinny, and so that's why I go to the gym all the time.
Can I just ask, I'm sure people will be seeing this through the camera, what size is that top? You've come straight from gym again.
No.
The soap dodgers at it again.
I went to the gym, but I didn't train. I went for breakfast with my
Have you showered today?
I showered this morning before I left the house.
And then put your dirty kit on?
No, this is exactly clean. It's quite a small top. My wife...
It's your wife's?
No, it's not. No, it's not. So I wanted to have muscles because of my body, and I'm working away. But one thing I had, private investigator.
What, you want to be one?
It was a higher one.
I would want to be a private investigator.
You'd be useless.
Really?
How would you know?
You stick out like a sore thumb.
You've got to be
How are
incognito.
you going to hang around with that haircut and nose? how are you going to stay incognito in your white mini with Go Faster stripes on? Here he is, Robbie's here. Heck.
You'd be the worst undercover detective of all
How do you
time.
know?
Magnum PI had a Ferrari Testarossa, you've got a white mini. Hey? You need a tash under that nose. I can imagine it now with your long lens.
Hang on,
Trying to catch someone out on benefit coming off a bus. Oh, it's right up your street, this, Rob, isn't it? You wanted to be a private investigator.
Why not? Why not?
Some bloke take it. He's a miracle he can walk. He shouldn't be getting benefits.
I just wanted to be one. Because I've got a few friends who are involved in that side. We trained with one, Steve, who was in the police.
He's a security guard at Man City.
He was in the police.
He has a bib and can't even watch the match. He's not a private investigator.
But he was in the police.
Oh my word.
He was in the police.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah,
On
he
the
was.
beat.
But I've
What
got
is it that attracts you to it, Robbie?
All right, Colombo, let's get him a match.
because I watch all these ITV.
What, Sherlock Holmes?
No, I watch these ITV shows now.
Morse?
There's a crime thing in on Piers Morgan's been on them. You know when
He's a private eye.
No, but it's like
Trevor McDonald.
yeah, when they goes inside prison. But I'm saying how
The
they
most
catch.
unfortunate title for one of them was Gordon Ramsay on coke.
But when you see it, how they solve the crime. Do you imagine going to a crime and trying to solve it? I think it'd be amazing. Hang on, the question was one thing you'd want to do, which you've never done. So I'm answering it.
Do you think you'd be good at solving real crimes? What would you bring? What qualities would you bring?
His lights on his car don't even work. He can't even figure out how to wire the fog lamps up. So how's he going to figure out a murder investigation? Imagine him turning up at the crime scene, trampling all over it in his Louis Vuitton wash bag down, and then he's got his Jimmy Choo trainers on. Don't stand there, Robbie. Oh, sorry.
Horrible.
Horrible. I'm just being realistic.
This is the world record for Robbie getting a hammer. And
I was thinking about you being a private investigator. I think it'd be a brilliant TV series.
we should do it. Reality television.
You would not figure any of them out. They'd all get away.
Matthew, ask the question again. Ask the question of this topic again.
The murderer would be sat in lounge with a knife in his hand, dripping with blood with a dead body. Robbie, oh, it's not him. He's got no chance.
If the controller of BBC Two is listening, Robbie Savage, as a private detective,
Matthew,
a reality TV show, I think it's a winner.
Ask the question of the topic again.
Can I be your sidekick?
The Dr.
Well, that'd
Watson.
be good. Though it's Fred 9'4" walking in. How would you
Morrison
be
Lewis,
cover?
aren't we?
Matthew, ask the question again.
Are you going to
Ask
change
the
your mind?
question.
What are you going to be this time?
The question
Is listen to the question.
The question is, if you were to do one thing in life that you've never done before, but you've always wanted to do, what would it be?
I would be a private investigator.
Yeah, okay, well, good.
There you go. Freddie, what would you want to be?
I wouldn't be your assistant.
What would you? You've done everything. What would you want to do?
I'd like to go to the moon.
Really?
Yeah, I'd love to.
What,
You
see
would be
them
scared?
aliens?
Huh? No, I'd like to go to the moon.
You would like to go to the moon?
I've seen a lot of the world. I'd like to see moon. I like to go on the moon. I don't think anybody's been on it neither. I love a conspiracy theory.
Olsen was on it, wasn't
He's
he?
never been.
Well, he has.
that
There's
nonsense.
a flag on it.
Yeah, but aye. You look at that flag, right? The flag, when he puts it in, he's flickering in the wind. There's no wind on the moon. There's no atmosphere. There's no wind. It's nonsense.
Are you a conspiracy theorist on it?
I love a conspiracy. I love a conspiracy theory. They've never been to the moon. So when did they go to the moon, Matthew? 1962 or 3 or something, was it? When was it?
Yeah, what, the Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin one? 60s.
60s, right? So you're telling me they've gone through all that, they've gone to the moon in the 1960s, and we can't be bothered going again?
Ooh, interesting.
50 years ago. Why have they not been back?
So where was it then?
It was in Nevada in the desert somewhere.
So you don't think anybody's been on the moon?
Nobody's been on the moon. No.
July the 21st, 1969, 3:15 a.m. So you want to be the first person ever to go to the moon?
Yeah, as that Tim guy just went on the moon.
Peake, he's not been on the moon.
Where's he been then?
Oh, my word, Robbie Savage. You're going to be a PI?
Where was
You're a
he?
private investigator.
He went to a
You're not be
space
following
station.
Tim Peake.
What? Well,
He didn't go to the moon.
It was near the moon.
He was nowhere near.
But he could see Earth.
No way. I can see Earth out of
You
window.
can't.
Wait a minute. He's
He
never
would
been
see
to
the whole
moon.
of the Earth.
Oh, we need that Cox again, not him, the other one. We need him in.
Well,
Brian Cox.
So how far was the guy, Bert?
He was just outside the atmosphere.
Who's the guy, Bert,
Bert
who jumped out of the
the fellow who did the what was it? He jumped
the Red
out
Bull,
the highest ever free fall.
Yeah, what was he called? Bert Wagsmile or somebody? Bert
That was amazing. That.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, Matthew? Do you know what it means? That
Yeah,
fellow
well,
who
the guy
did the
did
biggest
the
skydive.
Felix Baumgarter.
I was hoping that he'd go too far. I was hoping
And he'd
that he'd
take off
jump
into
out and he'd
space.
go up. Oh no, we overshot it.
How
by a
far
foot.
is the moon?
Huh?
How far is the moon away?
From the Earth?
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a bit of a trek, isn't it?
The sun is 99
Take a while
million.
in your
isn't it?
minute.
How long would it take to get to the moon?
Gosh.
A couple of days.
384,400 kilometres.
About a week.
It takes a week to get to the moon.
That's top of my head, that, Rob. I'm nothing to back that up with. But I'd love to go. I don't think
You wouldn't be
love to go to
scared,
the moon.
Fred.
Huh?
You wouldn't be scared.
Yeah, but I think it'd be good excitement, wouldn't it? Because you don't know what to expect. You get there, you got a planet to yourself. Just you on a planet. Imagine that.
Well, what are you going to do on the moon?
Let's have a look. I won't stay long.
You can have a
Just
look.
do a couple of hours and then come home. Well, imagine the selfie. What? Why would you not? Really? You wouldn't want to go to the moon?
You're going to be in a rocket, like, upside down for a week to get there?
Why would it be upside down?
Well, hang on.
Why would it be upside down?
No, you'd be like, what's the word I'm looking for? So you'd be in your seat like that for a week.
Looking up. Yeah.
Looking up
no,
for a
what
week.
happens is you get out of the atmosphere, then you
Yeah.
just cruise and you can float, you float around.
Yeah.
You float around in a rocket.
Yeah.
You can't.
It'd be amazing.
It takes a week sitting upright.
No,
like
you
that.
don't sit for a week.
Well, what do you do then?
You just move around your ship.
Your ship.
I've got
You
my own
want a
spaceship.
ship?
Yeah, you're not getting it, Rob, are you? You think going to Wrexham's an adventure? What are you doing? Matthew?
Oh gosh, I think the one thing that I always wanted to do and I've never done, when the careers advisor came to school and said, "What is your dream job?" I wanted to be a barrister in court, making an argument and saying, "Objection, Your Honour. Objection, my lord." And I've never really had the chance to do that. I'd love to do that. I'd love to be. I tell you what, I'd love to do. I'd love to be in the Old Bailey. The theatre of it, the drama, with somebody's life on the line, and being able to make an argument, to hear what the opposition are saying, and getting into the teeth of a really interesting murder case. Rob, you could have been the PI who brought it my way. Hello?
Have you finished? Oh my word! I never thought I'd say this. Can I hear more from Robbie? Objection, Your Honour.
I thought you were gone.
We thought about it.
Wow.
Where was the snoring? I didn't hear it.
So all the things you want to do is that.
That's the thing I wanted.
Wow.
When I was growing up, that is the thing I most wanted to do as a career.
When we said you could do anything, you know, I shot for the moon. I went for the stars. I thought this.
You're in the Old Bailey.
I was following
did
Rob's
something you
lead,
could
a
do next
PI.
week.
Hey?
You're in the Old Bailey.
You could quite easy. Hey, old Rumpole over there. Rumpole of the Bailey. You could have been anything.
So Freddie wants to go to the moon. You want to go to the Old Bailey.
And he only wants to say one word in court, objection. Then he can go home.
Wow. Didn't expect that, Matthew.
Rob's a PI.
What? I'm a private investigator.
Okay, so I think that was a big fail on that one, to say the least.
I tell you what, though. I tell you one thing. What didn't fail? I've got something for you two here now.
Go on.
So we're talking at this podcast being about the age of 17 to 21. It's been about size of managers. It's now been one thing we'd love to do. But I've got to say, I think the reason why I do punditry, and I think we do the podcast, is for moments like William, the 10-year-old we had. But when people who listen to the podcast, listen to this, that William, 10 years of age, on Saturday on my 606 show, have a listen to this. Is your boy in the car?
Yes, can I put him on?
Of course you can.
It's his radio debut.
Hey, what's his name?
William.
Hiya, William. How are you, mate?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. So come on, William, talk to me about the Swans.
Well, what I find really disappointing is that in the transfer window, they lost Gylfi Sigurdsson, who I would say last season was one of our best players. Fernando Llorente went to Spurs. Well, he's not getting much game time. And we replaced both of them with Wilfred Boney, who hasn't played for 2 seasons, and you expect him to score 10 goals a season.
William, I tell you what, you'll be taking my job in a couple of years, don't you? I hope you I mean, you're so speaking so well. So, do you think you're going to stay up, William?
Well, not really. If we play with the passion and the quality we played today, I mean, it's only Brighton, and we will probably go down.
What would you say then, William? What would you say then? So if you've got all those Swansea players listening to you tonight, right? You've beaten the game today. You're 10 years old. If you could be the manager and you could say to those players, what would you say to those players?
Just take a shot. They were afraid to take a shot for the entire 90 minutes.
He's very right. They tried to walk it in, Robbie. We were screaming, edge of the box, just have a shot.
Abraham didn't really get into the box. He didn't have many chances, apart from the one where he tried to dink Ryan, but the goalkeeper parried it out. Maybe he should have scored. And, well, he just didn't get into the box. And also, the service. It was absolutely dreadful. I mean, Tom Carroll, I'm not signalling him out.
Well, you are.
well, it wasn't one of his best games today. But I'm not signalling him out. The whole team today was poor.
So, William, do you think you're going to stay in the Premier League? No. Oh, wow.
Because
yep.
I think that January is really important to us, and the big decision is, should we sack Paul Clement? I don't think we should, as he showed us last season, but we need to get some good quality signings if we're going to stay in the Premier League.
William, what are you doing at 6:06 next week?
Well, maybe we'll phone again, Robbie. It's our first call today.
To be fair, absolutely brilliant.
William's been absolutely amazing. William, I tell you what, when Robbie goes to do some TV work for the 5:30 kickoff, do you fancy coming in and doing the show because your vocabulary, your knowledge of football,
better
your
than
diction
mine, William,
is much better than Robbie's?
William, I'm going to keep... William.
There's another good broadcaster who wants to say hello to him. Jonathan Overend wants to talk to William.
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan, come in.
Hi, William. I was just going to say exactly what Jason's just said then. If you'd like to come in on a Sunday afternoon when I'm presenting 5 Live Sport, you'd be most welcome. Leave your details because you're a star of the future. If you don't want to watch football, if you want to talk about it for a living, you're most welcome to come in one Sunday.
We will take you up on that offer. William would love to be a commentator when he's older.
Can I just say, William, you watch the Swans then. So who's your favourite players in the Premier League? So you watch all the big sides like Manchester United and Manchester City. Who do you like watching? What players?
Well, I like watching Manchester United because of their attacking football.
Oh, yeah. Hey, William, guess what? Jason, my co-presenter, thinks Manchester United are dull and boring.
No, I said it was a dull and boring game last week. You're such a troublemaker. William, a troublemaker. William,
what did you say to Jason?
Well, we're not boring. It's just the way Jose Mourinho plays. If anyone questions his tactics, and we'll be winning the league next season, you'll have your answer.
So, Robbie, he's a Swansea stroke Man United supporter.
Well, I was going to say, Dad, there was a rogue we in there, wasn't it? He did mention
William, last one, William. Guess what? You know Jason?
Yeah?
He supports Cardiff.
Why?
Exactly. William, on that note, William and Dad, thank you so much. That's been one of my favourite calls ever on 606.
Of all time. Did he say why? Why, Richard?
There you go.
Brilliant.
What?
Absolutely brilliant.
He's got a future.
What part of Swansea is he from? He's the poshest Welsh person I've ever heard. In a permit, eh?
How good was he, Matthew?
What happened to you, Rob?
What?
What happened to you?
What do you mean?
What, that kid, how old is he?
10.
10? Eloquent, speaking, you couldn't get your words out. What was that about? And then you were speaking to him like he was a dog. It was like, why was you speaking to him like that? So, who is your favourite? He's a person. He might be 10, but he's a person. You know?
William,
I don't think
brilliant.
you're going to get a job on CBBC, are you?
Thank you, guys, and thank you for listening. You can download the podcast for extended versions of all the topics we covered on this week's show at the Five Live website and all the usual
about 3
podcast
hours.
places.
They don't want any more.
All the shows we've done today available to download there as well. Please use the hashtag FredSavSide to get in touch through the week. If you could leave a review on iTunes and give us a rating, that would be great. We'll be back next week at the same time. For now, from all of us, goodbye.
Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy.
Thank you for downloading the Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy podcast. If you like what you hear, then why not have a look at what else 5 Live podcasts have to offer at bbc.co.uk/5live.